Good morning, Smite fans, and welcome to another day of Smite action here on this lovely Saturday. We're going to be kicking things off with the North American Challenger Circuit, our final NASCC match of the week. That's going to be between the KAOLIN Wardens and the ANASI Weavers as our final matchup here. My name is J-Mac Tucker. I got Mifflin joining me on the desk for our first set of the day. We got a lot of big talented names out here on both of these squads fighting out for their first chance here in the official NASCC start.
We sure do, man. I'm really excited. We got some veteran talent. The KAOLIN Wardens, formerly known as, I believe it was Sturdy Artisans, right? And then we've got the SOC representatives, now SCC, and the ANASI Weavers with some pretty big names, guys like Mando Warrior, Jinku Bang, even the hero. I'm going to give him that title, Chinfu.
The hero Chinfu, who was actually subbing in at that time, but it seems that he's made himself onto the official roster for this team with this performance. But taking a look at the NA schedule from what we've seen so far this week, it's been nothing but 2-1s here. Eldritch Hounds and Shabalba Storm getting wins earlier on in the week. That was on Thursday. And now our final SCC match of this week will be KAOLIN Wardens against the ANASI Weavers. Talking about the KAOLIN Wardens to start things off there, as you said, the former Sturdy Artisans roster with a couple of new additions to their name here. They got Relentless One, Sino, Moswall, Not Gino, and Griff rounding out that roster. A lot of star-studded talent. Sino and Moswall being back together, former SPL teammates at one point, now joining together here in the SCC.
Yeah, we've got some world champions on this squad, right? Some world champions MVPs as well. So very high expectations for them. I think they are the clear favorites here, as not only do they have SPL pedigree, but also they were in the SEC last year, whereas on the other side, they had to play through the SOC, the lower-seeded brackets. So the Wardens, I think, probably comfortable with their first matchup of the year, but can't take it too easy. You really want to get off to a hot start.
Yeah, you really want to make sure that you are competing at the top end here, because you don't have many opportunities here in this first phase. You only got a couple of chances that you're going to be going through these round-robin phases up against them. You want to make your mark early, as quick as you can. That way you can keep yourself higher up in the standings as we move towards the latter half of the phase and start moving in towards some of the much bigger tournaments later on here. But ANASI Warriors on the opposite side, we got Mando Warrior, Jingu Bang, Sops, Dashboard, and Chinfu to round out that roster. So it's going to be a very fun match here to start things out. So let's jump right into the picks and bans here for game number 1 between the KAOLIN Wardens and the ANASI Weavers. And we've been seeing a lot of the Kalina has pretty much been like the priority amongst all levels of play at this point now. She has been either top ban or usually top pick between most of these teams.
Yeah, we could see some cleanup priority. Bastet still up there as well. Plenty of Guardian priority. I think the mid laners have also been banned out pretty consistently in the first phase. So I'm expecting just a heat check from both of these teams. And it's worth noting that the Wardens have got some slightly unorthodox picks. It seems like Sino is completely adverse to playing Assassins ever since his SPL stint. Now he's going to play Guardians, Warriors, literally any role that isn't an Assassin. So that makes it a little bit harder for these teams to figure out what it is exactly that the Wardens are going to be looking towards. So I'm expecting maybe standard for the first game, and then we start seeing some adaptations as the set rolls on.
And so far it has been standard here out of the Wardens. It's going to be Aryo, Kabrakan, and Daji as the first bans out here. And then the Weavers, they're going to go ahead and take away the E-set, so they're not going to let Sino have his patented E-set jungle that's made them so many marks over in the previous phase and previous seasons of play. Then Kalina and Bastet, as you were talking about, both of those going to be banned away. But at least Zeus Open, who's weaved himself back into being in the top 3 of these mages over here in the SCC.
Has been. We even saw him prioritize pretty heavily in the SPL as well. It's that ability to clear out waves very consistently, very quickly, has decent survivability, and then just some of the best team fighting that you could ask for from a mid laner. Lightning Storm is a phenomenal objective tool as well as space control. The damage output is incredibly high. And people sleep on his objective DPS outside of the abilities. Just the auto attacks are incredibly strong for Zeus. So it makes him very versatile. You can go towards Pyromancers, Gold Furies very early on when you have this pick.
It's going to be Khepri and Medusa on the opposite side here for the ANASI Weavers. They're going to lock their duo lane in hard and fast. Up here, get a little bit of safety on the side of the Khepri. That Scarab's Blessing has always been a major nuisance of a tool whenever you have to fight up against it. There's always some answers there. There are a few executes in the game that you can get to work around there, but in the past we've seen teams really struggle to kind of go up against this Khepri. They really struggle to deal with that, but we will have one of those executes locked in. Chiron and Achilles specifically there with that ultimate going to be able to deal with this Khepri pretty nicely.
Yeah, so we've got the duo lane locked in now for the Weavers, and it's a pretty standard duo. You've got good pressure, though, just because Medusa is one of the highest kill pressure gods in that lane. But this Achilles, I think, is interesting in that I'm not certain that that's going to soul lane. I think it really could be slated for the jungle, just because I know Sino loves this pick.
Thoth going to be the last pick here now for the Anansi Weavers as we move in towards the bans. ANASI will be the first one out here to deal with at least taking away some of the cripples that would really put a damper here on the Anansi Weavers team. All three of those guys drafted in would really be affected pretty harshly by them. And on the opposite side here, Cthulhu, who has made his rise up back in the meta at all levels of play, now seeing a ban.
Yeah, look, he's a good team fight tool. He's very, very versatile with some of these new helmets as they've gotten some buffs. Has a lot more power available to him early on. His wave clear isn't as poor as it once was, and I think that was his majority weakness beforehand. It was, yeah, we get a Cthulhu, feels really good in a team fight no matter what, but you get bodied in lane by literally everybody. So now that that's gotten a little bit better, Cthulhu's going to see a little bit more play.
Last two bans are going to be the Yemoja and the Erlong, and now a Sun Wukong picked up on the side of the Anansi Weavers. We'll see where that lines out with, and a Discordia locked in now for the war. Is this Zeus going jungle?
Well, I think if one of the mages was going to jungle, it probably would be Discordia, but sure, man. That's Sino. He'll do whatever he wants. They banned the set. He's got to play something else.
I don't know where anything is going now, as Poseidon has also been locked in.
Oh, now we know perfectly, actually.
Okay.
That shines a light.
All right, what are we looking at here, Mifflin?
Well, we're looking at Poseidon jungle.
Okay.
That's clear as day, right? Like, everybody knew that going into this game.
100%.
Zeus probably going to mid. I'll toss Discordia over to support. Sure, she's got like a root. She's got like a cripple. That's CC. That's what you need from your support.
You know what that is?
I'm with it.
You know what? I'm not going to argue with that. That is CC. She does have some potent CC here. Last god locked in on the side of the Weavers, though, will be this Fenrir. Most likely slotted in towards that jungle role with the Wukong and the Khepri already locked in there. So we'll see exactly where this Wardens draft does end up lining out here in game number 1 up against the Weavers, though. Looking at these two compositions here, is there any kind of favoritism you're throwing towards as a priority towards winning game number 1?
The Weavers, they've got a draft that's like good, and the other side's got 3 mages.
Well, we'll see if it's the 3 mages or the more standard draft that takes the dub here in game number 1. KAOLIN Wardens versus the Anansi Weavers. And I gotta say, now that we've got a full look at both those logos, they are
nailed it.
Pretty sick logos. And you nailed it. You got the nail on the head here, Mifflin. It's going to be Discordia's support, and then the Poseidon over in the jungle for Sino here on the KAOLIN Wardens. You never know what to expect with this team out here.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting draft, and the Wardens are heavily favored in this matchup just because of their tenure in the league. So I think now is the only time you would be confident enough to go towards something as unorthodox as this. Evaluating some of the strengths of it, I think Discordia is really the only pick that is out of left field here for the KAOLIN Wardens. So what is it going to scale with? She's not going to be incredibly tanky. The CC output is not so high. It's not as if you've got the E set with a Silent Stun or the Nox where you can just shadow lock people. Discordia really is playing around that Strife for the most part. So you're probably prioritizing a little bit more damage in the build. And looking at what Gino's got so far, it looks like it is going to be a Breastplate of Valor in that first slot. Consistent poke, consistent CC, but not a whole lot.
Gonna be a pull in by Dashboard, a dash in by the Hunter here. Diesel not gonna find it though. Griff with a nice giddy up will manage to make their way out of here. And actually seeing Diesel over here, over in the duo lane, something we didn't get a moment to mention, Chinfu not gonna be the carry this time around. Actually taking Jingu Bang's spot in the jungle as the sub this week.
Yeah, Chinfu is a multi-role talented prodigy and can do whatever the Weavers need of him. Already getting involved on the Sino.
Sino, half health, drops down the Whirlpool to keep Chinfu back, but that's not going to slow down Chinfu enough. Mando Warrior coming on over, not even necessary, as Sops will strike first blood for the Weavers.
Yeah, you just can't get that aggressive on a Poseidon in the jungle. You're fast, you deal a good deal of damage, but you're not allowed to position that aggressively. No traditional escape, no dash, no leap, so you're really, really dependent on just maneuvering the map properly, and Sino caught out very easily there. Chinfu nearly had the solo. Had he waited on the Brutalize till after the third ability from Poseidon, probably goes a lot better for him, but luckily Mando Warrior there to make sure that kill goes through.
Dashboard getting a lot of poke here from Griff. Gino got plucked in earlier on by that Abduct, but has been able to heal himself up nicely with help of those potions, that green buff, giving a lot of extra support over that way. So dual lane for the KAOLIN Wardens is holding firm. However, with that first blood over on the belt of Sops, that's going to allow this Thoth to now escalate his build a little bit quicker, and we're seeing him going more towards that standard double pen start.
Yeah, Thoth is still going to go for that style of build just because of how strong his poke potential is. Gino stepping up, seeing if maybe he could steal that one away, and it seems as if he was successful in doing so. Interesting. Did Strife line up those auto attacks for him? Either way, massive steal for the Wardens on the left-hand side. That is a good deal of farm missed out for the Weavers. Keep your eyes on Sino, though. This is a decent gank matchup for him. That cripple comes up massive against Sun Wukong and Fenrir.
That Trident is doing some work up against Mando Warrior, slamming away some of his health pool. Blue buff will not be stolen out here by the KAOLIN Wardens, though. At least not yet. No, they're not going to go back up there and try and get that. Pressure established has come to the dual lane, though. Griff and Gino with that purple buff steal. Been able to get a little bit of the extra XP advantage over the ANASI Weavers. That's allowed them to now push up and keep Diesel back at that tier 1 tower.
Yeah, Diesel does not want to be there, by the way. You don't pick Medusa for her passive farm. You don't pick her for her late game scaling. This is the portion of the game where Medusa will generally dominate. It's not as if she becomes too weak as time goes on. Nice hover there, Doug. I was expecting a Strife max for Gino, but it is going to be the Unruly Magic. That's a good deal of poke, but you don't have a lot of scaling in this build. Maybe we see Gino go towards Bruiser after this Breastplate of Valor. You're sacrificing a lot of defense for your team, though.
Frenzy run in, the Golden Apple just off the mark. Diesel will be able to sidestep away from that one. Frenzy expended in the process there by the KAOLIN Wardens. They go for that aggressive play, but they come up empty-handed this time.
They do. Mando Warrior playing with fire. A little bit more damage would have put him into Execute Threshold, and if you are able to start channeling that Execute on Achilles before Mando Warrior starts channeling his own Somersault Cloud, it is so fast that you can't get up into the air in time. So Mando needs to play safe in this lane. Relentless One clearly looking for an opportunity here. Interesting decision making to go into the ultimate first. Nearly has enough damage. Had he gone back to base at any point, this Achilles would have had a solo kill for himself, but at least able to force out that line of safety from Sun Wukong. Now you can open up the door for some ganks. Sino can start to rotate his way over. And speaking of Sino, generally the answer to Poseidon in the jungle is a couple Aegis pickups on the other side, and the Weavers don't seem too concerned about it. Not a single Aegis, 4 beads and 1 shell on dashboard.
And really no Aegis across the board at all. It's a beads game aside from these support players. And you know, we were talking about the standard of thought. You build a double flat pin. That's kind of been the meta for him all season long. But what hasn't really been meta at all this season so far is something that Moswell has picked up here, a Book of Thoth for the mid laner. But we'll get back to that in a moment. Kraken comes out, does slam into Chinfu. Petrified gonna at least create a little bit of space, but Griff will dash in, grab one. That's gonna be dashboard, and Diesel's on the wrong side of the jungle. Centaur's shot, not enough to take him out. Instead, it's gonna be Sino with a follow-up auto.
Hey, Diesel, I respect the gumption to try and finish off that kill on the Griff. That was the only way he finds something in a nothing situation, but the KAOLIN Wardens, with superior rotations, are able to take that team fight in stride and close up some of that gap that was established earlier by the Weavers, picking up first blood for themselves. And looking at the experience, that's just macro play. That's just veteranship. They are just getting more neutral farm because 2K at this point, with the current map state, with the current kill state, that is exorbitantly high.
I mean, that's denying buff after buff, pushing waves under these towers like we were seeing earlier on over in that dual lane. A lot of that control has come from that way. Gino, with that Breastplate of Valor now, so a lot of those extra cooldowns to spam those abilities just a little bit more. But I want to go back to Moswell here, going with this Book of Thoth. That's not an item that we traditionally have been seeing more towards this mid lane. If it has been stacking, it's usually only been on like a Baba Yaga, and it's been a Warlock staff.
It's a lot of damage output. It means Moswell's going to be able to stick in lane a lot more often. It just screams to me confidence, right? Moswell says, hey, I'm just going to have a lot of power. It's not exactly the greatest survivability, but he's not concerned with it. He's more so concerned with sticking around in the lane. But that little exchange that we just saw in mid should be how you punish it. Thoth just hits you from further away. As long as he's able to chisel away at that HP bar rather than the mana bar, Moswell going to struggle here, but as of now, an entire level lead for the Zeus in mid, and we haven't seen too many gank attempts towards him either. Make that 2 levels, ticking over to 10, where Sop's sitting at 8, even after clearing his own red buff. That's a lot of XP gap. Chinfu needs to get involved in mid, but Fenrir doesn't win the DPS race against the Zeus, especially a Zeus with Book of Thoth.
And working now towards Breastplate of Valor, something that we really did see at the tail end of last season. Mando Warrior with 2 surrounding Kraken. Not quite enough to take out Mando this time around. He'll leap away, and then he's got the bird form to get himself on out of here. Mando Warrior will survive. Yet another onslaught there over on the solo lane. Chinfu trying to get aggressive onto Gino. Gino's got the golden apple, throw it out against the Ragnarok grip with the Centaurs to immune at the shot, and Scarab's Blessing from Dashboard makes sure that Chinfu has an escape path out of here. Diesel walking just away from the Strife. Chinfu does make it back to base. And for now, no one on the ANASI Weavers will go down.
No, but that is an expensive engagement for the Weavers. You lost Mando Warrior's ultimate a little bit earlier in the Soul Lane. Now Chinfu and Dashboard lose out on theirs, and we're not quite able to get any value out of it. Sure, they strip away the Centauras, they strip the Golden Apple, but you really want to take off those relics when you're a Fenrir, and every single pair of beads still available for the Wardens.
Gino gets grabbed out of the stealth there, but not going to be too much more. Just a Frenzy popped in response to try and throw some damage right back at Dashboard and make sure that they walk away for the time being. But this farm lead that's coming in the mid lane just comes back to what you were talking about with this macro play, because it was Sops who got the first blood to start this game out here. You would imagine a thought that first blood should have the advantage when it comes to the XP and farm, but it really just has been Moswell here in this mid lane.
Yeah, Moswell has an easier time clearing out the mid camps. Chain Lightning Detonate just going to clear that out on its own, whereas Sops has been largely splitting camps when he goes towards them, so that could be one place you see the farm start to separate itself. We haven't seen Sino in mid just about ever either. Moswell been allowed to farm on his own.
Gino uses the Cloud for a little bit of extra stealth. Stripe manages to slam into two. Kraken will hit only Dashboard. And a Ragnarok in response from Chinfu to chase back down. He doesn't find anything. Detonates all that's needed, but a shell comes in. Chinfu will live on. Gino still continuing the chase, but misses out on hitting that Strife that would have caught Dashboard.
Yeah, Chinfu just getting over aggressive in that fight. Tries his best to re-engage with the Ragnarok, but all Moswell has to do is line up that Chain Lightning. Sops forced to use the beads early in this skirmish, and will probably force back to base as well. 10% HP, that's not a whole lot to play with, and considering the stack from the Wardens on this side, gotta think Gold Fury's on the menu.
Relentless One waiting for that blue buff to fade away because they stole the red buff out, and they can easily grab that one. Meanwhile, the rest of the team working on the Gold Fury. Nobody from the Weavers is able to step up there, even despite having the vision advantage. So the KAOLIN Wardens will add another nice little chunk of change to their pockets, over 2,000 gold up and 3,500 experience to the Order side team. And that last little team fight was a real show. I mean, Chinfu goes in late with the Ragnarok, doesn't find any value with it. Moswell didn't even need to drop the ultimate just to show how much damage output that he had.
No, the Wardens are very dominant right now on the map. There's not a whole lot of fight back from the Weavers. We will start to see a distinct shift in damage output very shortly. You can see it in the builds. Chinfu already has the Silver Talisman, as does Dashboard. A lot of magic defense starting to be picked up by the Weavers, and for good reason. A triple mage composition should lead you down that path. Interested to see that Mando Warrior has gone for the Silver Breastplate, likely Breastplate of Valor. Very traditional for Soul Laners, but it's a triple mage composition, and we've been seeing a lot of rotations towards mid already. I don't think Mando really needed all that much help with sustain.
Relentless One versus Mando. Not really a trade out there. Relentless One is winning out here. Jingu Bang will be able to take them down. The magic cudgel from Mando Warrior strikes back. The ANASI Weavers finally can put their second kill on the board.
They can, but can they maintain their lives? Mando Warrior in some trouble here. Decided to land a couple of auto attacks on that tower. I guess did not see Sino just walking at him.
Moswell picked up by the Ragnarok, but not concerned whatsoever by what was following up there. It's only Dashboard to try and follow up on that damage. So Moswell didn't, even not having the beads, doesn't need to worry about it. Gino throws out the ultimate and will slam into Chinfu, but Chinfu uses the beads to make sure that they can continue going with that brutalize and get the kill.
Yeah, wild positioning from Gino there. Just zero respect for his opposition. Walks in the mid lane in front of three people, and well, you're a Discordia. You're a level 9 Discordia who doesn't have a whole lot of defense just yet, and I don't think you're allowed to do that. What you are allowed to do, though, is walk over towards a Pyromancer. That's the objective burn I was talking about a little bit earlier. Not just Zeus, but Poseidon as well. Going to remove those objectives very, very quickly. Now, both neutrals, having gone over towards the Wardens this game, and a Greater Scorpion to boot, have pushed this gold lead pretty far.
Look at the build that Sino's gone after that Divine Rune, as we see. You know, the gold going up to the 3,000. Moswell does drop the Lightning Storm. Sops holding on to that final judgment. And well off the mark up against Moswell. Doesn't land that last hieroglyphic shot that could have potentially taken out the mid laner here. So Moswell still maintains the beads, does lose out on the Aegis, but gets a lot back in return for that one, making sure to strip the ult off of Sops.
It gets the ultimate, but that is a massive win for the ANASI Weavers. Now without Aegis, the next time that happens, you're at least able to burn the beads or his life regardless. So Maswell likely going to play a little bit safer. We get a look now at what the Zeus build is going to start to look like as the game goes on, and it's that traditional Book of the Dead style. He wants all of that mana so he can survive these team fights. Drop him low, gain a massive HP shield thanks to the passive of Book of the Dead. Can't argue with it. It was a lot better a while ago. It's seen some nerfs since the last time we saw this build prevalent in competitive Smite, but it still is strong, and if you're playing with a lead, it still is going to work out very well.
Gino is just frivolously walking through enemy territory with no regard here. We'll make it out this time around. Maybe a little lucky to be able to walk away from 4 people that were rotating in here. Griff will even spot out Chinfu rotating through the jungle on this left side. Going back to base, Gino will finally be able to finish up that second item. It is a Shogun's Kasari. Try and double down here. Mando Warrior does manage to make it into the Somersault Cloud. Goes the opposite way through the jungle. It's going to be hard to outrun a movement speed Poseidon unless you got a blink to your name. Mando will have that one up and available. He'll be able to dash himself out. But going back to Sino, second item, Toxic Blade. A lot of extra attack speed on this Poseidon.
Yeah, auto attack Poseidon jungle is the way to go. You really want to be able to get some of those movement speed items online, some penetration as well. And you're maxing out the Trident anyway, so you might as well double dip on that style of play. So I completely agree with Sino's itemization. This has been what he's been playing for a very long time. Unfortunately for him, you do have to go towards Demonic Grip to get that % penetration in this style build. And Demonic Grip, not a terrible item, but it does not feel very good to purchase. Of the ring tree, it feels like the smallest power spike. You're really only going to start feeling it when you're looking at these tanks or maybe towards these neutral objectives. So keep your eyes on the Wardens. With the Oni Fury spawning very shortly, gotta think that's where they're headed.
Mando Warrior's been able to keep the XP lead over in this Soul Lane for the majority of this game. Still sitting about a level up, about a half level up over Relentless One here. Meanwhile, Jungle, Sino, 3 levels up over Chinfu. Chinfu has not been able to have much of success as far as staying up in this XP. He does have a kill, no deaths to his name just yet, but hasn't been able to find that farm. Sino has been all over the map taking these neutral farm camps away, and Mando Warrior does have the ultimate, might want to use it a little bit quicker this time around. Execute just off the mark, but Sino's got the damage. Mando finally goes down.
Maybe a Fire Giant pull here if the ANASI Weavers don't show some face. It is a Fire Giant pull. Chinfu spots it out, but they've lined up. Sino, he's the target.
Ragnarok does grab the Poseidon. The quick beads by Sino to get back out of there. Dashboard now in the middle of 3 will dash away. Gino gets rooted out by Sops, and there will be no continued aggression here from this Discordia. Relentless One, though, still sitting up at the forefront, but with this many people on the ANASI Weavers around this right side of the map, the KAOLIN Wardens have given up on the fire, and maybe instead they can look towards a tier 1 or this Gold Fury that's come back up.
Yeah, Fire Giant was just a heat check. I think the idea from the Wardens is, hey, we're 5 people on the right side of the map. They know it. We got the kill. Maybe they're headed over towards the Gold Fury, but the Weavers, privy to it, start to rotate over, make sure that the Fire Giant isn't pulled out. They're right to do so, as it was, and the Wardens try their best to turn around that engagement. Find another pick. Weren't quite successful, but nothing ventured, nothing gained. Consolation prize, Oni Fury. I'm not even sure I'd call that a consolation prize at the 15-minute mark. You're pretty happy with it.
Oni Fury does go down, so those minions will start pushing up in towards those lanes. And I mean, we saw 3-4 people walk over a red ward, and the Weavers go, oh, so they are just going to go over to the Fury. And then by the time any of them even step foot in the mid lane to try and stop it, it was already down. That objective burn you were highlighting earlier between Sino and Maswell really coming to fruition here. Third item, Book of the Dead, now finished. And so Maswell gets that extra layer of safety with that massive shield that he's going to be getting when he drops below that health threshold.
Yeah, benefiting from all that mana that he's already stacked up earlier on in the build thanks to Breastplate of Valor and Book of Thoth. You're also going to get some more percentage protections later on if he goes Protector of the Jungle, as it is an Eye of the Jungle start. And the KAOLIN Wardens, they've got one thing on the mind, and it's fire.
And at this point, it's maybe a kill on the dashboard. The Scare's Blessing does get him out for now. Execute off the mark by Relentless One. A nice little sidestep by Dashboard. Ragnarok out of Chinfu, picks up 1. But Chinfu is the one that's going on the run. Centaurus needs one more shot from Griff, but won't find him. The masterful shot after won't be there to claim that life. Chinfu just barely able to make it out of this one.
So the Wardens pull out the Pyromancer and force the Weavers to stick around yet again. Sop still has his ultimate, so there's some steal potential here for the Chaos team. And even in just showing face, Mando Warrior and Sop still scary enough that the KAOLIN Wardens won't stick to the objective. Instead, going to go ahead and reset themselves back to neutral. Relic Roundup, beads used for Mando Warrior, shell loss for Dashboard. Meanwhile, on the other side, it's a beads from Relentless One. that has been expended, and, well, Sino didn't have his beads going into that, but it'll be back up in just under 20 seconds. I think that the KAOLIN Wardens, with the gold advantage that they have, not massive, certainly, by any extent of the imagination, only 17.5 minutes in, but the confidence and the pacing of this game, the momentum, has been favoring them so heavily, I'm sure they'd love to fight.
Pyromancer goes over to the Anansi Warriors. Good zoning by Mando Warrior will allow his team to get a little bit of extra gold to help themselves out, bring them back in, and try and close up some of that lead. But all the while, Sino is going to negate any of that gold that they had just gained by taking out a Tier 1 tower on that left lane. But now they know that this Poseidon is not a part of the fight, but look how many rotated away from that Pyromancer over just towards this left side jungle. 3 of the Weavers have now completely left away from this right jungle.
Yeah, but Fire Giant really isn't under any threat from the Wardens either, so the Weavers are allowed to rotate there. Realizing that Sino's on the left and he's the bulk of the DPS on these objectives, they know that they have time to play on the map, at least a little bit, push out some of those waves, get some more farm. That said, Sino's made his way back to base and, in turn, back to the Fire Giant as well, so you better show back up, Weavers, because it's burning fast.
It's going to have to be quick. 3 of them not in position. Mando Warrior, the only one who can try and go for a steal here. We'll go up onto the Somersault Cloud. Fire Giant is going down quick.
Nice.
Mando Warrior's going to steal it, leaping down in. A nice little play there out of the Anansi Weaver. Solo laner will net them a free Fire Giant.
Fire Giant on 5, and Mando even gets to maintain his life. That is tough. Only 147 damage from the Somersault Cloud, and you gotta think that just about anybody on the Wardens can match that damage. Literally any of them. Actually, base damage from Geno it should be enough to do more than 147 from a Somersault, despite going complete tank onto this Discordia. Sino just a little bit off the mark with the Kraken. Moswell holds on to the Lightning Storm. And, well, Griff was just auto-attacking the whole time. Doesn't even have crit, so can't really get lucky there. That's tough. The KAOLIN Wardens now, I think, have to show some respect over to the Anansi Weavers. The gold lead was already minuscule, but cut even further. Experience non-existent. This is a lead entirely in favor of the Weavers. I'd like to see them start their siege. There's plenty of towers left on the map to collect some gold.
Yeah, still sitting with 4 on the side of the Weavers. Meanwhile, all towers up on the KAOLIN Warden side, so the Weavers can definitely close that gold gap, that small gold gap right back up here. And looking at those builds there, it's Jotun's Ferocity out of Griff, actually. So we're finally starting to see this item kind of make its way back in. It's one thing that we talked about as we get to see a nice little third-person perspective here from Mando Warriors. It's just that easy for him. He just dives right in, even eats the Kraken after, and then has the bird to get themselves right back out here. But I want to go back to Griff on this Jotun's Ferocity now that it's received a nice little buff. The internal cooldown has been cut from 60 seconds down to 30. And I'm honestly a little shocked that this is one of the first times we're seeing it now.
Yeah, generally when you go for the Jotun's upgrade, Jotun's Vigor just feels really good because of the additional sustain that it affords you. But I like to call this the Sundering Jotuns. It means you're going to be doing a lot more damage to whoever you are able to target out. And the style of God that Chiron is, he's going to be able to utilize that passive very easily. I think we even saw it picked up on Chiron a couple of times in the past. It's really going to help him out in finishing these single targets. That said, we'll see how much it's going to help him against a Fire Giant stacked team. The Anansi Weavers not doing a whole lot with this Fire Giant. So far, Tier 1 tower on left has been taken, and they stopped after that. 2,000-ish gold in the lead are the Wardens. I like to call Fire Giant 10,000 at least in terms of value. The Weavers, though, they're content with some neutrals.
They've been sitting on their hands for a while. Can they get this Primal Fury, or maybe they can grab Relentless One, who stepped a little far forward. Shinfu goes up into the Ragnarok, does pick up the solo laner, brings him right back to the clutches of the remainder of the team, and Shinfu close out the kill for the Anansi Weavers, and they can go right back to this Primal Fury.
And they'll get it for themselves. A win, to be sure, 1-for-0 trade and a neutral objective, but a large time commitment. I don't think the Wardens are too concerned letting them have that objective. Gold means a lot less 21 minutes in, and it still is a slight advantage for the Wardens. Meanwhile, Sino splitting the map, picking up some gold for himself, pushing out those waves and some experience. And the Fire Giant timer is down to less than a minute now for the Anansi Weavers as they finally start to approach their first Tier 2 tower on the map. 3-stack here from the Chaos side. Griff and Moswell putting up a defense.
Griff, Moswell. Griff eating a lot of damage, though, from the poke out of Sobs. Some damage shown back by Moswell in Tier 2. Doesn't even go down just yet. Meanwhile, it's a red buff steal on the side of Chinfu. So what have the Weavers gotten with their Fire Giant buff so far? A kill, a single Fury, Primal Fury, and one Tier 1 tower.
Make it 2.
Well,
Woo!
two tier 1 towers now with that right side one. They could make it 3. I mean, look at the tier 1 in mid. It's pretty low. You can just go walk right over there. Diesel, take it out.
It is the highest value tier 1, the mid tier 1 that is, because you're going to be retreating towards it regardless of which objective you're on. If you lose a fight on the Gold Fury, generally you go to your mid tier 1. You lose it on the Pyro or the Fire, you generally go to your mid tier 1. So removing that bastion of safety is pretty impactful, but as far as gold and experience are concerned, tier 1 towers are negligible nowadays. You're not really getting a whole lot for your squad there. It's more so about the map state. So the ANASI Weavers not going to overcommit to the mid tier 1 tower of the Wardens. That said, it still is a gold advantage for the Wardens. The experience has been largely equalized, maybe slight advantage over towards the ANASI Weavers at this point. Level 20 for Mando Warrior in the solo, as opposed to Relentless One's level 18. You're only 1 level down on a couple of your roles, the junglers, so that's not a massive deal. 1 level up in support for Dashboard. I think the Weaver's in a position now where they can be the aggressors onto one of these neutral objectives, and Fire Giant not going to be as easy for the Weavers to burn down as it is for the Wardens. Their DPS is much lower, but their confirmation is equally strong, if not stronger, thanks to Sops on the Thoth or even Diesel with the Petrify. Keep your eyes on him. And the objective burn is not awful, considering Diesel has elected to go for a crit build. Already has the Wind Demon, goes into the Silver Branch afterward. Gotta imagine that is going to be an Envenom Deathbringer eventually.
Lord, I'm just watching the attack speed of this Poseidon right now. Between the Demonic Grip and this Toxic Blade's been picked up. 1.82 on the attack speed for this Poseidon. He is swinging. It's been a while since I've seen Poseidon attack this fast. But for now, the KAOLIN Wardens are losing out on the vision control. The ANASI Weavers have been able to step up and regain those ward coverage around this Fire Giant, and they've even got the positional advantage. Chin Fu goes up and grabs the Relentless One, but it's going to be beads out of the solo laner, so Relentless will be fine for now. But losing out on that safety net means that Relentless will have to use the ult for any kind of CC immunity.
He will. Chin Fu, though, losing out on his own ultimate. It'll come back up relatively shortly, as he has already got a good deal of CDR in the build, but that means that it's going to be a couple of seconds, maybe 30, 40 seconds, until they're willing to go back in towards this fight yet again. 45 seconds left on the Ragnarok, and well, you can see the ANASI Weavers, they've slowed down their own pace. If they are able, the Weavers that is, to reset back to base and pick up even more sentries, would make it very difficult for the Wardens to work their way forward, is what I would say, but they're just doing it.
Frenzy has been popped, and that Fire Giant is shredding. It has gone away. The KAOLIN Wardens have secured the fire this time around. Mando Warrior up on the cloud will dive up against Moswell, who's got to use the Aegis to get themselves back up. Sops finds Shino. Cudgel slams to the back. Final Judgment will proc the shield onto Moswell, the only reason that he lives through all this, but Mando Warrior doesn't want that to be so. But Mando has dove too deep, and Sino is able to punish him and take him out. Massive Centaurus damage. Not enough, though, to take out Sops.
1-for-1 trade so far, but the Fire Giant goes over to the veterans. The KAOLIN Wardens now on the retreat. Can Chin Fu stop a back here? Griff won't be able to get it off entirely. Uses the beads a little bit early, so Chin Fu able to pick him up.
Giddy up, plus some extra damage. The DPS race goes the way of Griff this time around. Turning it away. Stop my back, will you? He says, I'll put you in the ground.
And he does exactly that. Chin Fu, my heart goes out to him. That was the right call. He needs to go for that play. Removing the Fire Giant from the ADC is one of the most valuable things you can do for your team, but just not quite able to take that engagement for himself. That Aussie passive comes up massive for Griff, as well as that healing. And, well, that's just enough to do it for him. Now the KAOLIN Wardens with Fire Giant on 4 can start their siege up in earnest, and their siege is pretty strong. Griff goes for a penetration build, so he's going to be shredding these objectives. Moswell on Zeus has got very good attack speed, so he can go through these objectives very easily as well. And then you got to talk about the space control and frontline. Frontline may be a little bit lacking, because I'm not willing to give Gino credit as a frontliner on this Discordia, but Relentless One is pretty tanky at this point. Has the mantle of Discord, so even acting as a CC bomber, if you will. I gotta think the ANASI Weavers would love to take the fight in neutral territory.
Gino by himself up here. Griff right behind now. It's going to be some good damage up against the support. Gets the bubble off of Gino, so that's going to be 60 seconds before that Magi's Cloak comes back online to help out. And going over towards this breastplate, we've been seeing a lot of Breastplate of Valors being picked up over the course of these last couple of months here with some of the changes, especially towards the glyphs that have been popping up here. But it's going to be Breastplate of Vigilance here, picked up on the side of not Gino, the one that actually reduces the auto attack damage after that ult is used.
Yeah, very interesting pickup. Yeah, I would think that Vigilance isn't really the one that you would want up against the Weavers specifically. You're limiting Diesel. You might be limiting Chinfu a little bit. Chinfu hasn't really been auto-attacking a whole lot regardless. But any bit of additional survivability, I suppose, is going to help out when you're playing a non-traditional support, especially something like a Discordia. So, sure enough, I just got to think Breastplate of Determination would have gone a little bit further for himself, though. And not concerned for himself. He's a support. It's selfless. I'm over here thinking about it like a jungler. I'm too selfish. Can't think about it. It's absolutely fine.
Yeah,
It's still just like a great stat stick, you know? That's cool.
You can still think about it that way. I mean, extra survivability helps you, which in turn helps your team because you get to stay alive and provide more CC.
Sure.
Why not? Red buff invade here by the KAOLIN Wardens will go successful. Relentless One picks that one up and continues this dive up against Chinfu. Meanwhile, rest of the Wardens will start pushing up this left side lane, waiting for the minions to get in. And this tier 2 tower will not stand for much longer. As soon as the minion walks in, it's going to be as good as dead. It'll take him a moment to actually walk in and try and DPS it down, but it will go down nonetheless. Relentless One all by himself up against 4, and that's the punishment.
Yeah, these have been very slow Fire Giant power plays for both teams. Both teams seem like they're very willing to get Fire Giant and use it to get a Gold Fury. That's exactly what the KAOLIN Wardens do before they approach the tier 2 tower on left, and we'll see if it costs them greatly.
It's a golden apple down by Gino used earlier. Mando does have just enough health to get up into that cloud. Kraken off the mark by the jungler here. Chinfu goes back in, and the lightning storm has dropped down. Maswal's shield is now procced back with that shield, with that Book of the Dead, and he'll be able to get back out. A lot of the members of the Weavers very low on health, aside from Sops, who's sitting nice and pretty in that back line. Sops still holding on to the ultimate alongside Dashboard.
Yeah, I thought maybe with Sops having the rotation around the back of that team fight would have gone a little bit easier, but that lightning storm from Maswal comes up massive. I think it did upwards of 3,000 damage on its own. And Sino, sure, the Kraken doesn't connect, but it was enough to force out the blink from Chinfu, and Chinfu did not have time to line up the blink properly, so just blinks to the side, slowing down his own initiation. It was Sino and Maswal acting together to peel out for their team, and it works out. The majority of them do survive. The KAOLIN Wardens, though, even with their Fire Giant, were only able to pick up one tier 2 tower on the left side of the map. They finally have exposed one of the birds of the ANASI Weavers, so this next Fire Giant might make it a little bit easier to find yourself in a winning situation. But it's been trepidatious play from both teams once they actually do get the objective.
It's an enhanced Fire Giant here in the next 5 seconds after it has spawned itself in. Pyromancer pulled by the KAOLIN Wardens, but there won't be any commit to it. Now that we've passed that 30-minute threshold, we do have enhanced Fire Giant on the map. And so far, with both these Fire Giants that these teams have taken, we've seen very minimal tower play. We've mostly seen Gold Fury and a pick, or no picks in this case, on the side of the Wardens in that last team fight. But Sino's not concerned with the objective. Instead, it's going to be tier 2 tower all by their lonesome. That gives the ANASI Weavers enough time to make their way towards Pyromancer and take that one down.
Yeah, Pyromancer not a massive deal as of now. Sino rotating through your backline, that is a massive deal. Going to make it easier to line up those Krakens. And speaking of Sino, this man might as well be playing Apollo, the amount he's been split pushing.
Gino throws out the golden apple, only hits Mando, but Sino has come back to the fight. The frenzy has been popped. A Kraken just off the mark this time around. Maswal eats a final judgment with the shield, has kept him alive. It's a 1-for-1 trade out to start this fight. Make it 2 now as Sops has picked up Maswal. Mando on the run, blinks in, finds 2 with the Master's Will. Cudgel slams into the back of a Relentless One, and now it's just Gino all by themselves up against Mando and Chinfu, and it's Mando with the dot after to take him down.
Only 2 left standing from the KAOLIN Wardens. What can the ANASI Weavers do with this time? 40 seconds left on the respawn of Maswal. 45 on Gino, and I think they've got time. The Weavers, that is, to head back to base, get ready, walk up to the Fire Giant, and do it all over again, this time with a significant advantage. I don't think all of the Wardens will be in range to put up a defense. That said, it's going to be a couple of seconds till Centaurus comes back up, but if it does come back up in time, Griff's going to have some decent steal potential if he decides to walk up to the Fire Giant itself. Relentless One has just got his ultimate back, so some CC immunity, and Bede's still up, so he might be able to walk up. We've seen crazier steals. Again, earlier it was a 140 damage steal from Mando Warrior that confirmed the first Fire Giant of the game. So I think the KAOLIN Wardens, if they're privy to it, should be able to slow down the Weavers, but the Weavers, they're on the Fury. I keep forgetting that when we get Fire Giant in this game, we're fighting for the Fury, so you might as well just go to the Fury. Why go to the middleman first? They don't do the Fury either. They're regrouping on the Fire Giant. Both teams going to dance yet again.
They're really throwing you for a loop here, Mifflin. They just want you to really keep watching as to what's happening. For now, we're going to watch this Fire Giant started, and Mando Warrior's health bar chipped away by the KAOLIN Wardens here up on that cloud. We'll have to leap back to safety. Under half health now on this Sun Wukong. And Mando doesn't have a teleport to get back in this fight quickly. So you're going to need some sustain for the help of this Soul Eater to get a little bit of that back. And I say a little bit, that was a lot of health back on this side of this Wukong.
Yeah, Caduceus Shield going to help you out a fair bit in that self-sustained department. The ANASI Weavers have established defensive positioning around the Fire Giant. The KAOLIN Wardens, with their incredibly unorthodox draft and lacking of any form of initiation, will have a very difficult time finding their way in there. But nobody from the Weavers has pulled the Fire Giant just yet. So Relentless One in face checking there can relay to the rest of his team, hey guys, zero threat over here. They're just standing menacingly. And that's all that's happening. Everybody on the map simply standing menacingly.
Gino in the mid lane, menacingly up against the minions. Jinfu leaps in, doesn't find the bubble off of Gino. Gino's trying to bait out this Ragnarok pull. He's the one who ends up getting picked up, pulled back, and taken down. Jinfu strikes first in the fight for the side of the ANASI Weavers. Mando Warrior diving in, but stops with the final judgment. Takes down Moswell from downtown. And Relentless One trying to distract everybody else. Jinfu will go to the back end to deal with this Achilles, but it's already 2 down for the Weavers.
And Relentless One's just trying his best to buy some time because he does not have any chance of surviving this one with Sops hot on his heels. That should spell the end of his life. Credit for the kill over to Chinfu as the Chaos team start to approach the Fire Giant. Sino and Griff, they've got their eyes on the Tier 2 tower. They'll be able to pick that one up and continue their push. Sino doesn't have the ultimate available. Not sure what he's going to be able to do here.
Fire Giant will go to the ANASI Weavers. A Phoenix push-in by Sino is not going to go anywhere except for his health down towards the crown. He's at a quarter HP, trying to push back Mando and Jinfu. Whirlpool is a little bit too late here. Sino goes down, Mando Warrior. Credit to the kill, and Griff now on the run as the Ragnarok comes out from Jinfu. Gonna just use it for the fight for the damage after, but Griff is only delaying for as long as possible. The rest of the ANASI Weavers are pushing up this right-hand lane. Moswell and Gino are back up, and they're going to be the only ones to try and defend against these Phoenixes.
And here's the thing about how Gino's playing Discordia. He is, so not a whole lot of defense here for him. Is starting to look towards a little bit of damage in the build down that fortified scepter tree. Moswell alive and has ultimate. Might be able to buy some time, but he's going to need to buy a lot because it's 30 seconds left on Sino.
Gets rooted out and thrown down. Sops with another big shot will take down the mid laner, and now it's just Gino and Relentless One to defend against all 5. Gino, Relentless One falling low, use the Fatal Strike to get out, but he's not going to get far enough. It's going to be Diesel coming up with the kill. Gino not going to defend here, and the ANASI Weavers have brought this one back and taken game 1.
Gotta think the KAOLIN Wardens are playing a little bit too much with their food in game 1. Some questionable plays around objectives, a lot of split pushing, questionable drafting phase as well. But congratulations over to the ANASI Weavers, able to make a comeback nonetheless and make some pretty miracle plays as well. The steal on a Fire Giant extends that entire game and opens up the opportunity to push elsewhere.
And even though they didn't get a whole lot with that first Fire Giant steal, as you say, they delay this game more than anything, and then KAOLIN Wardens, when they got a Fire Giant, they didn't do a whole lot with it either. But finally, at the end of the day, it is the Weavers who come up with a game 1 win. We'll take it to a break, and we'll come back for game number 2.
Do you miss me at all? Do you think about the things we used to do? No, you couldn't stand tall, so didn't you call? So many years has gone by, but I think about you all the time. Looks like you're changing and all, but why didn't you call? Something in the air, always something in the air. Inexplicable, I can feel it in the air. Can you feel me? Can you feel me? Can you feel me? Do you miss me at all? Do you think about the things we used to do? No, you couldn't stand tall. So why didn't you call? So many years has gone by, but I think about you all the time. Looks like you're changing and all, but why didn't you call? Something in the air, always something in the air. Inexplicable, I can feel it in the air. Can you feel me? Can you feel me? Can you feel me? Can you feel me?
The KAOLIN Wardens may have bided their time a little too long as the Weavers are able to close this one out with a fight around the Fire Giant and take game number 1 of this best of 3 set to get their series in the SCC started up here. A big game 1 now for the Weavers. As we look towards game number 2, even kind of looking back throughout this draft here, one of the biggest problems that we saw was this triple mage, no assassin, no real front line outside the Achilles here on the side of the Wardens here, though, Mifflin.
Agreed. They didn't have any way to initiate fights. It was very close range stun from Achilles, and that was about it. And if you don't have a way to initiate a fight, you don't have a way to set up for a Lightning Storm or for a Kraken or for a Golden Apple. So your triple mage composition probably going to struggle in those situations, and, well, they did. It seemed like the Warden strat was at its strongest when they were split pushing, and that's generally where they were able to establish their lead throughout this game. But as far as team fights were concerned, for the most part, the Weavers had complete control throughout. And, well, the first 20 or so minutes, I think, can be largely ignored, as the gold lead was never really massive for either side. I think the largest we saw in favor of the Wardens was about 4K, which was swung back towards the Weavers, upwards of 2K. And then eventually it just comes down to one Fire Giant skirmish that goes very well for the Weavers and nets them the dub.
And it felt like Mando Warrior was able to squeak out of every single one of these, tricky engagements with like 100 health, able to jump into the cloud, able to get away from this Kraken or that Kraken, or get out of these lightning storms here. Just quite enough tankiness on this Sun Wukong. Stops this long-range damage. Was able to put out massive final judgments throughout the majority of these late-game team fights here. You can even see this one where it just kind of clips to the back line and slams Boswell for pretty much his entire health bar, even chewing through a lot of that shield from this Book of the Dead build.
Yeah, just very difficult for anyone to deal with that when 1,400 damage flashes before your highs that quickly. Kind of think Som's feeling pretty good about his potential in that game. And gotta talk about Mando Warrior. Gotta give some credit to him. Found a couple of solo kills in the laning phase, so hold that one. Relentless one, I suppose. I'm expecting some different drafts, though. Game 2, I've completely erased Game 1 from my mind. All 40 minutes of my life gone. Hit it with the whiteboard, just clean it off. Let's go into game 2. Maybe if we're lucky, Sino Assassin?
You might be asking a little bit much there, Mifflin. We'll see if he brings you some benefits here in game number 2. Picks and bans ready to go now between the Wardens and the Weavers. We'll see if we actually do get an assassin at Sino this time. Is it going to be a mage? Is it going to be a warrior? You never know.
I'll take a warrior.
Sino. A warrior? Okay, so at least a warrior. Maybe something physical, at least on the side here. Maybe not a hunter jungle, though, unless maybe
Yeah, I'd take a warrior and an assassin, I think. That's probably where Sino's going to find the bulk of his success.
Well, so far it's going to be Thoth
Or
and
Iset.
Artio banned away, but Iset will not come through. That one's going to be banned away alongside Kleena. And if anything is reminiscent of game number 1's bans, we'll probably see a Bastet there by the Weavers as well.
Yeah, so far, still largely standard bans, just things you don't generally want to play against. The Thoth performs very well, so ban that one out by the Wardens. Kabrakan has something that has been fringe meta recently in both the SCL or SCL. Wow, that's my OG coming through. The SCC, rather. I apologize. And the SPL. Instead, though, it's going to be the Medusa lock-in, and, well, that is a good sign for the Wardens that they're taking this drafting phase a little bit more seriously this time around, because that is a very high-priority pick. And it's one that should be able to establish you pressure relatively easily in the long lane. We saw what Medusa can do in Game 1. We'll see what it can do in Game 2.
Yeah, we do see it taken away from the Weavers this time around, and instead of the Khepri Medusa that we saw in Game 1 of the Weavers, it's going to be Khepri Jingwei. So still making sure to round out that dual lane. A couple of these buffs from Jingwei have seemed to kind of brought her back into the light. We've been seeing a little bit more of her as of recent, Mifflin.
That is the second most annoying lane to play against probably in the game. I think the only thing I'd hate more is Khepri Heimdall, just because how are you killing that? How are you killing Khepri Jingwei? Once you take over to level 5, Airstrike and Scarab's Blessing, both some of the best defensive tools in the game. Jingwei can reset herself very easily, so even if you are going for these small poke battles, these elongated fights over in the laning phase, she'll just go back to base and then fly back to lane. So I think the Weavers are essentially saying, hey, we're not playing through duo this game. We're waiting for those guys to hit level 20, and then they can just rotate through and be hunters, and then Khepri will just be a safety net.
Well, assuming that this Erlong Shen's going to be going to the jungle here, it seems that Sino has answered your prayer of bringing something physical over into the jungle.
I've been here before, man. I'm not. Look, let me see the rest of the draft, and then I'll talk about Sino's pick, you know, because we don't know yet.
Assuming we haven't seen Erlong anywhere else, to my knowledge, aside from the jungle.
Yeah, but it's Sino.
As of recent, but yeah, you know what, you're right there. It is Sino. Achilles, Athena, Sun Wukong, and Cthulhu all banned away. Guan Yu, the 4th pick up on the side of the Wardens here, and Persephone now over for the Weavers. So mid lane drafted up here. Only need the solo laners left on the side of the Weavers, and now with the Naja.
So you know, you're pretty confident about that Erlong Shen in the jungle. How are you feeling about it now?
You know what? I'm still going to feel confident about it.
Think so?
I'm going to say this Naja is going support.
I would agree with you that is likely the best allocation of these gods. Naja support, Guan Yu solo, Erlong Shen in the jungle. That is the best place to put them if you're trying to build a composition. Is it where it's going to be? I don't know. But that's my job, is to bring the analysis. I'm going to bring you the facts, and factually, that is likely where they should be.
Well, we'll see if those facts are going to be true this time around. Game number 2 between the Wardens and the Weavers is ready to go. And where's this Naja going to land? It will be in the jungle. So Sino will actually go to an assassin this time around. It will be the Erlong Shen support. So I will eat my words on this one, thinking that this Erlong Shen was going to be going over there. And I was right in saying that we haven't seen Erlong Shen go outside of the jungle in quite some time. But that time has now been minuscule down to basically nothing. Sino. Okay, it is Griff on. I had to make sure here. Medusa will be going over towards Griff. Relentless one. On the Guan Yu solo, going to be starting with that Bluestone with the Cudgel start this time around. You think it's going to be more towards the Blackthorn or the Runeforged Hammer?
I'm thinking it's probably going to be Blackthorn. It's just the passive on that item really synergizes very well with Guan Yu. I am excited to see the pacing of this game because the Wardens have a composition that will fall off incredibly significantly as the game goes on. If we go to another 38-minute banger, I don't see the KAOLIN Wardens able to pull it out against this composition of the ANASI Weavers. Quadruple physical is just very hard to perform on. By and large, I think physical defense probably just a little bit more valuable than magical defense, just because you're able to use it against structures, you're able to mitigate all those auto attacks, may just have higher damage numbers regardless, so the magic penetration percentage-wise is a little bit more valuable, which is why if you are going to go a quadruple 1 composition, I probably would say magical a little bit more often. But the early game of the Wardens very strong.
Well, right now, it's the Weavers trying to make some waves here in the mid lane. Sino eats a lot of poke from Chin Fu, but will not be able to return nearly as much back. Sino now rotating in. Ring toss does bounce between Sops and Chin Fu, and a lot of damage thrown back over towards Sops this time. Big stun up against Chin Fu. Now puts both of the members of the Weavers under the tier 1 tower, and both sitting around a third health.
Good to know that Sino's still got it in him to play these assassins. I know Naja has always been one of his signatures, but that was a clean mechanical play. The ring bounce was perfect. The timing of the stun, just getting so much poke in that lane. It would have been very difficult for Maswell to recover from that damage he had just taken himself on his own. So Sino comes in and rights the ship in the center of the map.
Sino walks by a freshly spawned in Harpy camp, and looks like they will turn their sights right back over to it. So a nice little camp steal on the side of the Warden's jungler, but Gino has rotated very early out of this duo lane. Not going to find anything on this rotation just yet. Instead, giving a little bit of free farm over towards Griff. And now Mando Warrior, the one in danger. A good toss in by that ring, and a sash after. Needs one more auto. Can Sino find it? No, the tower is just a little too safe for Mando Warrior.
Yeah, maybe if Relentless One stuck to his guns there and dropped the shell so Sino could have tanked up at least one tower shot. That goes a little bit differently, but he drops the kill.
Chin Fu gonna have to eat some of the shell, return fire back. Sino wants that first shot, but again, can't find it. Trickster Spirit out of Chin Fu, gets back to safety with help of Mando Warrior there, but finally, this will all pay off for the side of the Wardens. They'll steal away the blue buff and put Mando a little bit further behind.
Yeah, beads lost for Chin Fu and Mando, so defensive capacity lost as well. That said, Mando Warrior playing Amaterasu will tick over to level 5 relatively shortly, and when Dazzling Offensive is available, it becomes very difficult to shut down this pick. Similarly, Chin Fu, when he has that Powwow, can remove himself from the playfield and start essentially just using it as another leap if he has to.
Griff leads some damage here. Gino will make sure that Dashboard and Diesel don't continue their aggression, so a very quick start here out of the Wardens to at least establish some pressure in that dual lane. Though to be expected, Medusa, one of the better hunters in the game right now to do that. You throw Erlong Shen, very aggressive warrior, normally seen through the jungle, but here into the support role, able to do very similar levels of pressure out. Meanwhile, towards the mid lane, Sops and Maswell able to hit level 5 at this point, but going for two different starts here. Maswell going towards Lost Artifact, meanwhile, Sops going towards their flat pen.
Yeah, Maswell as well has gone down the Conduit gem tree, which is something that I've talked about a lot. Now that Agni's Rainfire costs mana, he can use Archmage's gem very well. We don't see it too often because Sands of Time has CDR, and CDR is just an incredibly valuable stat line to pick up for yourself. So, gonna pick it up somewhere as Chin Fu takes the 1v1 up against Gino. Turns out Erlong Shen, even in support, does just a ton of damage, but up to the Powwow goes Chin Fu.
Chain 3 will hit Gino this time, and a lot of follow-up out of the Weavers, but instead it's an ultimate out of Sino on landing. He's gonna need a little bit of help from Maswell to take first blood. An extra bomb through. Dashboard gonna try and keep them alive, but it's gonna be a 2-for-1. Make that 4-for-1 out of nowhere. All of this damage between Griff and Maswell have shredded through the Weavers.
Yeah, it turns out the Weavers thought about looking at Medusa when you ult, and you probably don't want to do that. Two people turn to stone, cost them their beads and their lives immediately afterward. All that play set up by Sino, who aggresses very well, buys a lot of time for the rest of the Wardens to work their way forward, and, well, the Weavers get caught out inside their own jungle. You can see it now in the experience in gold. What a massive jump for the Order side team, and that is some early dominance, but this is where they were in game 1. The Weavers still certainly in it, but Gold Fury spawning very shortly. Very strong composition for the Wardens to leverage those early objectives. Sino already has the Brawler's Beat Stick. You've got an auto attacker support. Griff on Medusa shreds objectives. Even Maswell gonna have an easier time, I suppose, securing the objectives this time around. Wouldn't be surprised to see the Wardens group up shortly to try and force yet another fight. Gotta think if they're willing to the 5-stack a red buff, they'll probably do the same thing on a Gold Fury.
Sino level 6 on this Naja, level 8 though. For Maswell, picked up 2 of the kills in that fight, and so same as Griff, 2-0-1 on Medusa, and you can see that XP really already making a difference here on the side of the Wardens. Weavers falling behind the golden EXP earlier on, but that's, as you said, what we saw in game number 1. It pretty much started this out this exact same way. It wasn't until really the first Fire Giant, like 20-25 minutes in, that we saw the fight back from the Weavers. Mando Warrior used that dazzling offensive. The stun is enough to get the beads here. Sino not going to follow up with an ult of his own to try and punish Mando. Instead, they'll just take the beads and take their victory.
Yeah, not enough damage output from an dead Guan Yu to finish off that kill. Sops uses the ultimate to avoid the 9 turns blessing from not Gino, buying some time for Chinfu to rotate in. He actually starts up the Powwow there, but is immediately stunned out.
Mando up against Sino, and Sino will have the ultimate this time. The Windfire Wheels will get the kill. Sino finally puts their first kill on the board. The 1-1 and 4 Naja finally able to make their mark.
Yeah, you'd think Sino would play some Assassins more often if he's going to be this good at it, able to shut down Mando Warrior in the 1v1. Griff uses the ultimate, Petrify, to immune out the pull-in.
Gonna use the beads after, maybe expecting Dashboard
Almost
to have
won
gone
that.
in aggressively. And nearly 1v3 this entire left side of the map. Griff able to come up big here, but not as big over and towards that mid lane. Sops goes down yet again. This one, I believe, going over to Gino, credit to the kill.
Does it feel like the Wardens just woke up or something? It feels like it's a different team. We gotta check.
They got their coffee.
Yeah, can we get some cams on these guys? I feel like the big brothers are on the keyboard now.
Yeah, they got their morning coffee in. They got the caffeine to keep them alive and going, and they're just gonna keep on going. Relentless One with their first kill of the game, their first one they were able to take part in, takes down Mando Warrior for the second time, and the Weavers are really starting to fall behind here. 3,500 gold now at the 7-minute mark. And why stop there? Sino's going to keep going aggressive over towards this red buff, but misses out on that sash up against Chinfu.
Yeah, no ultimate available just yet for Sino, so no way for him to chase out. It will be coming up shortly, so the Weavers, if they stick around, might be in some trouble. Diesel dropped down to 30%, and, well, Gino's tanky. I don't think he's too worried about this.
Gino's going to have the beads to get away. Griff dashes back in. It's going to be the ultimate out of the support dashboard to try and keep Sops alive. But meanwhile, on the backside of the fight and over to the left-hand, Sino finds one with the ultimate, slams down, bringing Mando Warrior back to earth, only to go right back into the dirt. It's 3 dead on the side of the Weavers. Chinfu's got 1 with the Powwow, but Relentless One will tank it up to make sure that his teammates do not go down. It'll be him who goes out instead. And Gino, though, going maybe a little too aggressive at the tail end of that fight, makes it a 3-for-2.
You know, yeah, you're too nice, J-Mac. You don't have to say maybe. He went too aggressive. That was the Phoenix. We're like 8 minutes in, man. He went too aggressive. He gets shut down. But it's not going to cost him too much. Gold Fury pulled out and reset as Diesel does turn the corner. The KAOLIN Wardens, well, they're still pretty significantly in the lead. You've already built such a lead that you're allowed to fumble a couple of times because 6,000 experience at the 8-minute mark is a little bit ridiculous. 10 kills in 8.5 minutes. We're way past the kill-a-minute mark. I think the Wardens, they can play around a little bit from here.
I think that's the same number of kills we had at like 30 minutes in the game last time around. We have had a much more fast-paced game here in game number 2. The Wardens are really sitting up here. Everybody has been able to get kills so far to start this one out. Moswell and Griff 2 and 3 kills apiece. Sino even picking up a second one during that last little engagement there. The KAOLIN Wardens starting up strong, 3,000 plus gold in the lead here, even after that blunder under the tier 2 tower. Relentless One will keep up the pressure against Mando Warrior, who has not got to have a fun time up against this Guan Yu. He's going to need some backup from Chinfu, but Sino is there to back up Relentless One.
And Sino does have the ultimate available, so Chinfu and Mando need to play cautiously around it. No beads for Sops as of now, but, well, Sops isn't here, so I don't know why I said it.
Mando Warrior not going to get stunned down. Instead, he's going to be taken up to the sky by Sino and right back down. Another kill up for the Naja. Chinfu will dash in aggressively, but not find anything. It's Sino with the double. Gino pulled back in. Not enough out of Moswell to save the support this time around. But a 2-for-1 trade out goes to the Wardens.
Man, Diesel makes the rotation over towards mid, get dropped down to 10% HP for his trouble as Moswell continually sinks damage into the Weavers here. It's an abduct from Dashboard, but a dangerous play nonetheless because it just cost him his life. Moswell removes him from the map the old-fashioned way as Diesel comes back towards mid to try and slow down the aggression that's been happening here. Did you forget what happened? He took a lot of damage.
No, okay. Diesel does get the kill this time around. Moswell a little overzealous here in that mid lane, going for another 2v1 fight up against a full health Jing Wei this time. He goes down, but the Wardens are able to pick up the Gold Fury and keep pushing that golden XP. 8,500 XP, 5,000 gold up for the Wardens.
Yeah, the Wardens are simply playing with wild abandon at this point. There's aggression all the way across the map non-stop, and they are out-mechanicking their opposition. The Weavers choosing some poor engagements, getting shut down for it, and Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the leads that have already been established. 3 levels in support, 1 level in ADC, 1 in mid, 3 in jungle, 2 in solo. The KAOLIN Wardens, they're just stronger. They are simply more powerful at this point. The Weavers need to play around their numbers advantage. It's got to be like a 3v1 on the map. You got to be waiting for the Wardens to go into your tier 2 towers, and it doesn't seem like you're going to have to wait very long, considering I think the first tier 2 dive we saw was at like the 5-minute mark.
And they're playing with unwavering confidence on the side of the Wardens. I mean, Sino is going aggressive up against a solo laner at this point, even though it is a 2-level advantage, might as well. Moswall is taking constant 2v1 fights in this mid lane. Might have to use the beads here, but doesn't have them for the Pala. It's going to be a pull in. Gino will be able to get away from that one. Moswall goes down. Shinfu credited to the kill. The Griff is now rotated over. Petrify almost is enough damage to take out Shinfu, but Dashboard using that ult on somebody else means that he doesn't have it for himself. It's Griff coming up with the kill in the fight. Relentless One diving into the tier 1 for Sops, and Sops has nowhere to go except to the waiting arms of Griff on the back end.
Yeah, meanwhile, Sino chases Mando Warrior all the way from the soul lane into the mid-tier 2 tower. We got to see just the tail end of that engagement. A dazzling offensive from the right side of your screen until he dies to the ultimate, the Windfire Wheels of Sino. And now we're 16-6. Tier 1 mid-tower falls down. Tier 2 mid-tower won't fall too long behind it. Well, Diesel, he's going to try his best to match some sort of pressure on the map, maybe not realizing Gino's right behind him.
Well, it does get hit by a pin, and that should be at least a telltale that somebody is here.
Ooh, crit, crit.
The question is, can Diesel win the 1v1? Airstrike is available as an escape tool, but now that Sino is on the way, Diesel doesn't have very many avenues left to find an escape. Moswall cutting off the third path here. Diesel gets caught, gets up into the airstrike just in time. Sino doesn't have that Windfire Wheel, but might not need it because Relentless One has rotated back in the fight. It's a bomb out of Moswall to take them down. Relentless One low,
nice stun.
but Dashboard is falling low too. Shinfu up on the Pao Lao, only going to be able to pull in a couple of people this time around, but has only pulled them to his doom.
Yeah, Sops tries to show up and defend his boys, but gets there just in time to be the 4th notch on the mark here. And look, KAOLIN Wardens still relatively healthy, barring Moswall, who will head back to base eventually, or potentially die to a purple buff if he's unlucky. I think that we might be able to see the Wardens go towards the Phoenix. They seem to disagree instead. It's going to be a reset. Forgot we're 13 minutes in because they have 20 kills. The time has lost all relevance to me now, as the Weavers, well, they've got a very steep hill to climb if they want to find their way back into this game, because we're looking at almost 10,000 gold in 13 minutes.
I mean, looking at the golden hand as some of these players are going back, we were seeing 1,500 to 2K for every single one of them. Moswall will grab a Soul Gem on back. Griff gets a Wind Demon. And then a Crusher on the side of Sino to go along with this Brawler's Beatstick and Bloodforged second item out of Sino. Not something that we typically see blanket statement, but also not something we're very accustomed to seeing even as a second item here. And Sino just half-health Shinfu with only the sash, and then Moswall comes up and takes the kill with Noxious Fumes of all things.
Yeah, Moswall, kind of a scumbag for that one, if I'm honest. It's noxious, to be exact, if we're being honest. Look, Sino goes for Bloodforge because it's a ton of power, and it's going to allow him to stick around in this fight longer. That is the extent of it. Yeah, 5% movement speed as well. And he got some life steal. He's already got some inherent healing in the kit thanks to the second ability. Sino's going to be around. End statement.
The Fire Giant's not. That one goes down.
End statement.
End statement. This one over to the KAOLIN Wardens, who have complete control of this game. Nearly 10,000 gold up. And Gino's just adding insult to injury. Actually, he's just trading health bar for health bar with the enemy support as they are just passing flowers back and forth between each other. Meanwhile, the rest of the KAOLIN Wardens are going for the kill over on the right-hand side. Mando Warrior's got the beads to get away from the Windfire Wheels. This time, Ultimate out of Sops just off the mark. Shinfu in with the Pao Lao. How many can they pull in this time? Moswall's got the beats to get away. It's only Sino, but Shinfu is gone. Petrify. And a follow-up auto out of Griff is enough to take down the jungler.
Relentless One hops onto Epona and surges forward, forces out the bead from Dashboard, and it's an abduct in. Relentless One will fall.
Mando Warrior gets some help on that one. Griff goes in aggressively, has to use the Aegis to get out of the Phoenix and almost loses their life. Diesel goes in and manages to trade out their life. It's a double kill for the Hunter, but now Sops is the one under fire. A quick leap away will get out of the bomb range, but Gino has blinked into the back line to find Sops and will slowly pepper those autos in and take out the mid laner.
Right side Phoenix will fall down as well as Mando Warrior surges forward. The Phoenix just straight up kills Sino, but does eventually fall down. Maswal, the only one dealing damage now for the Wardens, will be forced to retreat as Gino, incredibly healthy, still has ultimate, no longer has ultimate, just gonna make me wrong on the cast, does eventually use it. We'll see how long it takes the Weavers to kill him.
Well, the healing has already gone through, so no extra health for the side of Gino, but Maswal has not gone back to base. Let's throw a couple of more bombs out here, see if we can get some extra damage to help out Gino. It's still in this 3v2. Big flame wave out of Maswal. Cover some damage up against Mando. Back to the Palau goes Shinfu. Can they find a pull target? Not against Gino. Maswal use the Aegis up against Mando Warrior's ultimate. Gino is somehow still alive throughout all of this, and Maswal dashes in aggressively, finding a kill up against Shinfu.
Dashboard, low HP, Flame Wave coming up very shortly. Off the mark, Dashboard gets to live, and one of the benefits of Sops being level 13 is that he respawns pretty quick. Gets back into that team fight just in time to whiff another ultimate, and Maswal will go back to base. Right side Phoenix does eventually fall down. Fire Giant power play has a minute and a half left on it, but not a single person carrying its torch. Instead, the only neutral objective I think anyone's going to be looking towards is this Oni Fury, if the Wardens so choose. Weavers will not be pulling that Fury.
I just looked down and realized that Diesel has 9 kills. He has almost every single one of them for his team on the side of the Weavers. He's been able to maintain at least a state of parity with Griff as far as XP and build is concerned. Relentless One gets pulled back in, standing around this obelisk, continuing to take some of those flowers away. But at this point in the game, I mean, Relentless One is very tanky between the Rune Forge, the Breastplate, and the Caduceus Shield. He'll be able to take out this Oni Fury so that way Griff can take that down, add another objective to the side of the KAOLIN Wardens.
Would you rather be 9-3-0 or 7-1-3, J-Mac?
I'm going to go 7-1-3 because that's only 1 death versus 3. And the kills are close enough, at least.
Yep, I agree. He can just get 2 more kills and, you know, and not die 2 more times. He's going to just have a straight up better KD. Plus, he's got some assists, so he's a team player. Nice. Good call. Yeah, me too. 7-1. It's a 7 KD versus a 3 KD. It really wasn't much of a question, if I'm honest.
No, that was just a matter of doing some real quick math, and pretty quick math there out of that one, Mifflin. Good on you.
Yeah, 7-1. I could divide that pretty easy. You know, I didn't finish college, but I went to high school.
Sino picks up Dashboard, brings him right back down to the ground. Dashboard has to dash away on this Kepri, and that'll be enough for Relentless One. Caught under the Phoenix. I'll go down to Diesel, so that's 10-3 now for this Jing Wave. Only 1 kill still gone onto the side of Diesel, but that's enough for the KAOLIN Wardens to now back away. Their Fire Giant buff is gone, and that power play has been able to net them almost all the towers across the board and 1 Phoenix during all of that. But it doesn't seem the Wardens, even with losing 1, they're not super concerned about sticking around here, at least for now. Now, as soon as I mention that, they will back themselves up and potentially reset for this fire.
18 minutes in, twice as many kills, 36 on the board. But the goal differential has stayed largely the same. Generally, I like to say goal doesn't matter as we start to approach that 20-minute mark, but it still certainly matters because of how large the deficit is and might continue to grow to be as Sops, being accosted in this Tier 2 tower, will be able to walk out. Whether or not he can defend the tower, yet to be seen. Maswal does a lot of damage, but not the structures, and Sino doesn't seem like he's very willing to stick around. Fire Giant will be barreling back down to the earth in just under 10 seconds. Gotta think the Wardens are going to be the ones pulling this one out. The Weavers, well, they were able to defend their base last time around. They're a little bit stronger this time as well, but it wasn't the cleanest defense. I would argue it was more so the Wardens just getting crazy with their aggression, namely Sino straight up dying to a Phoenix and Griff essentially dying to a Phoenix. I think he traded 60% of his HP to it, whereas the actual tank Gino was diving the fountain and not tanking anything, was 100% HP once his entire team had already fallen. So that all said, I think the Weaver's best chance is to defend the Fire Giant right now. And, well, it doesn't seem like they agree.
Gotta get there pretty quickly if they want to, but Mando doesn't want to step up against the 5 strong of the Wardens. Second Fire Giant now goes down for the KAOLIN Wardens. That right side Phoenix has come back up. But the Wardens have a fire wave that they can push in. Mando tried to back, but then spotted out Mando and decided to cancel that back. And instead take the long walk back towards the base. It'll be a defense up against this right side weakened Phoenix. But it should only take 1, maybe 2 autos out of his team to grab that. Gino goes into the back line, finds a blink ult onto 2. Relentless One up on the horse. Not going to find too many targets, but instead slamming up against the wall. Paolau won't find any value out of Chinfu on the pickup. Sino manages to grab one and will bring them right back down to the waiting arms of Moswall, who will take down Diesel. Chinfu gets sats for pretty much their entire health bar in its grip to close it out.
3 strong, and the Weaver is still around. Dashboard forced to use the ultimate on himself. Will not pop, but it does get him out of there just for a moment. That said, now Sops and Mando Warrior won't be benefiting from that safety net.
Gonna have the Titan as some extra damage on the side of the Weavers, but they're gonna need more than just the Titan. Gino picks up the kill on the dashboard. Mando is keeping Griff busy. Sops is throwing out as much damage as possible. Mando has to dash away. Gino will continue to chase. Sops goes down, as well as the Titan here. Game number 2 will go over to the Wardens.
40 total kills in 21 minutes, and earlier during the pre-game for Game 1, I said that the KAOLIN Wardens will probably be your favorites going into this set because I was expecting this kind of performance from them from the offset, but they were letting their little cousins play for Game 1. Now, on set brink, they're willing to try and go for the reverse sweep.
And look, if Sino is gonna play assassins like that, why aren't we seeing the assassin every game out of him? Why are we getting these really weird picks out of this team? We'll see what happens in game number 3. That one's coming up right around the corner, right after this break. Wardens turned on the Jets in game number 2, and much like our other NASCC sets this week so far, we're going to be going to a game 3 now between these two teams. The Weavers and the Wardens will face off in our third game 3 of 3 sets with these NASCC teams. But like we were saying at the end of game 2, Mifflin, the Wardens finally just decided we're going to play Smite, and if they're going to play Smite like this, it's no wonder why they might be some of the fan favorites out here.
Yeah, previously the Sturdy Artisans, a top-seeded SCC team, whereas the Weavers are coming through the SOC with some relatively newer talent. We were expecting the games to be a little bit more one-sided, and when the drafts are on the standard side, it seems that that is the case in this set. The KAOLIN Wardens go for essentially a very normal composition, barring Gino, who decides to play the Erlong Shen in support, but even then, I'd argue like 50 times better than what we saw from Discordia, so I won't complain about it just about ever, as long as he'll do it again.
As long as this team can rally together, can't be too upset about the draft they were able to pull out this time around. Relentless one on this Guan Yu solo, something we've been seeing a little bit more of as of recent. Was able to get some decent damage out there as well, put some big pressure on Mando, who was kind of one of the big thorns in the side of for the Weavers last time around. The Wardens were having a lot of difficulty killing this solo laner, but this game, they would rally out and take him down.
Yeah, they were. I think the main defenses that go well for the Weavers are when the target priority and the tanking priority from the KAOLIN Wardens were a little bit lacking. Namely, I'm talking about the time where Sino just dies to a Phoenix and only a Phoenix. I'm pretty sure his death recap didn't have like maybe Archer 16 damage and then Phoenix like 2,000. Otherwise, pretty one-sided game, I'd argue. I mean, like, they had more kills than there were minutes.
Yeah, the only person on the Weavers who is really having any kind of major success was Diesel. Ended out the game with all but 1 kill for his team. Though not top of the damage charts for him, that does go towards Sops for his team, but Mazwal Sino leading out over that on the opposite side there for the Wardens. And some adjustments do need to be made from the Weavers this time around. Maybe allocate some of those kills across the board, so that way it's not just Diesel hogging all the glory and hogging all the gold for his team, maybe.
Or even just some like slightly more aggressive picks, something that can match up to the level of aggression that we just saw from the Wardens. It was constant across the entirety of the map. Tier 1 tower dives at the 2-minute mark, Tier 2 tower dives at the 5-minute mark, invading red buffs on first rotation. There wasn't quite enough fight back potential in the early phase from the Weavers draft, which is going to be the nature of a Khepri Jingwei lane. Even when Jingwei is picking up 9 kills, she doesn't have the same level of damage as any of these more fight-oriented hunters. I'm talking about the Ho-Yis, the Izanamis, the Medusas, something along those lines.
It's going to be similar bans that we saw in game number 2, the E set, the cleanup, but now an Erlong Shen ban. We'll round that one out here instead for the Weaver. So Bastet still potentially open by the end of this draft, and it will be now, because that's the only new changeup that's been made here. It's still going to be the Thoth, the Cabrakan, and the Ardio on the side of the Wardens as they're now in the second pick this time. Weaver's looking to go first, and they will take that Bastet that they have left open.
Yeah, very, very strong pick. Has a lot of damage potential, can CC from a range. I like to call it Bastet's ultimate. It's called Hunter Bast, right? We're going to call it Ragnarok Mobile, because you could just do it from downtown and bring him back wherever you are without dedicating your own body. Doesn't matter if you hit that giant cat. It's not going to damage Bastet, so that makes her very versatile in the team fight phase. She's also a decent flex pick. We've seen her in the soul lane, and we've seen her in the jungle. More recently, though, generally in the jungle.
Medusa and Sylvanas. The gods locked in for the Wardens this time around.
Mid.
I was almost going to say Sylv Jungle because it's Sino.
That's good too, yeah.
Dang. This is,
well, we got to figure it out. We'll see the rest of the draft.
Yeah, we'll wait till things go. I don't want to make a call this time and be caught with my pants around my ankles this time. So Ho-Yi and Khepri, though, we can probably lock in where those two are going over dual lane on the side of the Weavers, and that gets you some more of that team fight pressure from the Hunter 2 you were talking about just a moment ago.
And now I get to see the Merlin locked in on the other side, so it's definitely not Sylvanas mid. Sylvanas Jungle Dream still alive for you, J-Mac. We'll check back in just a moment. Ho-Yi Khepri is still not a very high pressure lane. Ho-Yi, though, is very, very good in the 1v1, very good at fighting from behind as well. So if the Weavers are struggling in the macro farm and he does naturally fall behind, you still have the potential to find those ricochet turnaround kills. A double bounce 3-4 levels down is still going to do upwards of 50% of someone's HP bar. Like, it is very, very potent. at that portion of the game. If you do establish a lead for yourself, you're able to go towards these objectives, use it to help you out with burn, or even potentially make it a little bit more difficult for anyone to want to walk in and try and steal. You can use it as a zoning tool. It's one of the most adaptable ultimates of hunters to make sure that blinks aren't working. Just throw it out in front of the gold free, and all of a sudden the effective range of that relic becomes much, much lower.
Daji, Cthulhu, Guan Yu, and Naja will be the final bans here in the second phase of bans. And now, with a Nemesis locked in, starts getting the hopes up to maybe we're seeing a more traditional support here on the side of the Wardens. I said kind of, but if the SPL play-in, or I always want to say the play-ins. When we had the tournament last week, the kickoff tournament for the SPL, we saw a lot of Nemesis going solo, but now with this Bologna locked in, I think we have a more...
you go first.
I think we have a more standard draft out of here, and
Yeah,
we
please.
will probably be seeing this Sylvanas go towards the support role this time around.
Yeah, who's going in the jungle, you think?
I'm going to say the Nemesis. I'm going to go with the Nemesis.
I'll go Bologna, but otherwise I think I agree with him.
All right, Kalia is the final pick over for the Weavers, ready to go into game number 3 between the Weavers and the Wardens. Who's going to come out and get their first win in week 1 of the NASCC? We'll find out as this game goes on.
Darn it.
But unfortunate, it is going to be the Nemesis jungle, the Bologna solo, and Gino taking the Sylvanas over to the support role.
So this is the most standard composition we've seen so far from the KAOLIN Wardens. It's going to take a little bit longer for them to get the same level of aggression as what we saw in Game 2. I'm expecting we still might see them attempt it, but as far as scaling is concerned, Nemesis is going to need a couple of items. Merlin going to need a couple of items as well. The dual lane, though, between Sylvanas and Medusa is going to have a ton of pressure. The wave clear should favor them. The 2v2 should favor them as well, at least for the first couple of levels. And you can see that respect already from the Weavers, Diesel, and Dashboard just backing themselves up.
Gina's going to go in, blink, but pull off the mark. So no beads burn, no potential kill this time around for the Wardens. But losing out on that relic means that now that we know that it is a blink, there's not going to be a shell, and not going to be any kind of frenzy, just offensive here out of Gino.
Yeah, meanwhile in the soul lane, we're already proxying waves. I suppose trying to open up the door to look towards these back camps, but Chinfu has already cleared those out, so there's not much potential there. Instead, now having forced the wave into Mando Warrior's tower, he'll miss out on gold.
Sobs, Dashjon, and Moswal will find the final tick
fast.
damage there to get first blood in the mid lane, with the KAOLIN Wardens once again being the ones to strike first.
So fast. Sino just so strong on this pick, man. It was slice and dice, auto cancel, dash, auto, dash through again. Like every single thing lands for him there. And the burst potential of Nemesis at level 2, a lot higher than what I think some people would give respect to her for. And, well, Sops has learned his lesson now. Beads lost, though, for the Agni means that there's potential that it just straight up happens again.
But with this Kali, that actually does mean that the Bastet goes over to solo lane, so it won't be the Bastet jungle we were thinking of initially in those picks and bans. Pulled by Gino up on the dashboard, and a lot of damage thrown at this Khepri. The bounce by Diesel, just a little shy from getting the return fire right back onto Gino. Instead, it's dashboard sitting back. Quarter HP on this Khepri. And why stop the pressure here? Relentless and Sino can continue trying to strip away these buffs, stripping away these back camps from the Weavers. And we can see Diesel and Dashboard really have to keep themselves back at the depths of this tier 1.
Doug, can we get a look at the gold charts here? Net worth for Bastet sitting at 2,200 as opposed to the 2,400 of Relentless One. Relentless One not even really invading all that much up until this point. That's just tower gold.
Chinfu, it's a 4-man rotation to take down the tree. The Weavers have had enough of this Sylvanas pressuring up to that tower. With all 4 rotating over, they'll pick up the kill, and maybe a little bit more. Chinfu's wrapping around very far to the backside of this lane. Might just be going for a purple invade, but with Griff standing by, this won't be an easy purple to steal away.
It won't. Chinfu going to take a lot of damage early on, and he got it. Nope, he didn't even get it.
Nope.
Purple buff goes to Griff, kill goes to Griff, and Chinfu simply dies there.
He just got.
If Bumba's dagger was the pickup, like, you could make the argument, okay, well, if he gets it, he resustains, and then he leaves, but it's like an Eye of the Jungle. Zero respect for this Medusa, man. That was just a fumble.
Dashboard rooted in place off of his own abduct, and now with no mobility will be stuck behind Griff, who will tick over to level 5. And Diesel, using the wave to try and zone out, does get the leap in time to get away from the Petrify, but Sino and Gino are hot on his trail to dive under this tower. Pull in, gets the bead, and the Order Tower will get Sino.
Here's the thing about how towers do 15% more damage than like what everyone thinks they do because of a recent buff. That was 3 shots and like 1,000 damage on the Sino. Tough stuff, man, for Sino. I would argue still the less embarrassing of the last 2 jungle deaths we've seen. So at least he was trying his best to chase out a kill and at least is able to get the beads off of Diesel in turn. So now an opportunity for the KAOLIN Wardens to rotate back and shut down this Hou-Yi another time. Whereas Sino doesn't even use his own blink. He might be slightly behind in experience, but once he clears out those camps, he'll be right back to even.
Relentless one, though, stealing away yet another back camp. Sops is here. We'll throw out the bomb. Doesn't matter if Sops gets the camp or not. It's the flower that Relentless one is after. He'll steal away that offering and make the Wardens a little bit further up now as far as their obelisk is concerned. It seems to be tied across the board as they trade camps back and forth. The Diesel level 5 now does have that ultimate. Shinfu wrapping back around, has destruction this time.
Yeah, run it back.
So shouldn't be able to die in this fight. Gino gets a 3-man knockup though with the ultimate. Grip is standing by because he can't do much. Diesel credit to the kill and an ultimate at a dashboard. Thinking that maybe Griff was going to go a little bit further there, keeping Shinfu alive.
Yeah, Scarab's Blessing expended, so one of the 2 death immunities from the Weavers used, and on the guy that has his own death immunity, Chinfu. Just going to go ahead and head back to base and take that small win for himself. Similarly, Diesel able to reset and finish off his Crusher. But you got to think the 2-0 Griff, who has not gone back to base at any point, might have the ability to catch up in that build relatively quickly. Junglers largely equalized, mid laners slight lead over towards Maswal, who's been farming just about on his own for the entirety of the game, whereas Sops has been splitting a little bit more farm. Otherwise, largely even across the board. KAOLIN Wardens, though, benefiting from a pretty good gold lead, considering we're only 5 minutes in.
About 1,500 up for themselves here. Experience roughly the same, bouncing around that 1K mark. More into Warrior under pressure, though. Only has the Soul Leader. Used that ultimate just for the CC immunity, but that's not going to do any good against the damage that comes out from the KAOLIN Wardens. Sino able to pick up his first kill of the game.
And beads lost for Mando Warrior. And Bastet has a leap, but that's just about it as far as escapability. So, gotta think Sino probably gonna loop his way back around and try that one yet again. Might not need the help though. Relentless one already has the Berserker Shield, Death Toll as well, so the auto attack damage pretty significant already for this Bellona in the lane. And Mando Warrior is a far ways off from upgrading that Soul Eater, so the sustain not that high, the defense not that high. Could be that the KAOLIN Wardens just leave Relentless one to his own devices and say, hey, handle that lane on your own. Well, you've got the lead. You can do it.
For now, Gino's still trying to get something going here in the duo lane. Hasn't been very successful with getting these pulls up against Diesel. Only found the one under the tier 1 tower. Shinfu and Dashboard, though, rotating up at the top side around this Fury. Diesel will go up in the sky and crash back to the safety of the jungle. But Shinfu and Dashboard have wrapped their way back around. It's a blink stun in by Shinfu. Grip gets pulled back in, and Diesel will take them down with a ricochet. Another gank over against Griff, but this time they come up fruitful.
That is the 4th time Shinfu has shown up in the duo lane, and this could be the 2nd time Mando Warrior falls down. Sino should have this one dead to rights, and he does. Easy pickup for the jungler.
Gino, though, won't make it out of here.
Ooh, what a
nice
bounce.
triple bounce out of the Hunter Diesel, but it's Chinfu who gets the last hit to pick up that kill. 2-1-2 now on this Kali, but another speed buff invaded by Sino. He has done this again because Chinfu has once again gone to the duo lane for these ganks.
Hey, look, that is a mental victory if I've ever seen one. Anytime you're able to steal a speed buff, especially ever since it's been moved on the map with some of these map changes in the last couple of years to be legitimately the safest buff on the map, it is mentally crippling to lose your own, especially if Sino is going to do the most BM thing, which is leave a small behind. So Mando Warrior turns the corner, or not Mando Warrior, excuse me, Chinfu turns the corner, sees the small, clears it, and Arthur Fist memes his way throughout the rest of the map. The KAOLIN Wardens largely ahead. The kill advantage not as significant as what we saw in Game 2, but the gold about exactly what we saw in Game 2.
Well, the Weavers still falling behind now. 2,400 gold and XP down against the Wardens. Griff has been under fire this entire game, picked up 2 kills himself, 1 death finally after that rotation, but it's only put Griff about a half level behind. Everywhere else across the map, especially in that jungle, is going the way of the Wardens. Gino pulled back in by Dashboard, a lot of damage by the mid laner Sops, but not enough to close out the kill onto Gino, and the tree will make it out of this fight.
Yeah, not much of a commitment there from the Weavers. Sop's not willing to use that dash aggressively. Doesn't have that devil may care attitude that we saw from Moswell on the other end. Relentless One, though, certainly does. Up, down on a dashboard, and the kill credit goes to him.
Maybe some extra damage up against Sops. Fire Stance is what Moswell likes to go towards. A blink in by Shinfu with that leap. Pops the destruction, and then the ultimate. Out of Mana Warrior, does manage to clip. Moswell will make sure to get the beads out of that. But the fire and the damage from the cat is enough to turn it back around. Mando Warrior is now against 3, and that'll be 3 dead out of the Weavers as the Wardens only trade out Moswell.
Can the Wardens pick themselves up an objective on the tail end? Seems like Sino, a little bit more killing-oriented, is going to head over towards Diesel. And, well, it's going to be an entire collapse. Relentless One and Gino going to join him on this dive. That said, Dashboard and Shinfu on the way in.
Shinfu in the jungle, 4 versus 3. Diesel drops the Suns at his feet, and Sino will soak up some of that damage with the shield, but a massive petrify out of Grip, stuns out 2, and 3 go down on the Weavers. You can't be looking at the Medusa.
Yeah, that is a DPI check if I've ever seen one. Hey, turn around. Nope, can't do it. Just gonna get turned to stone there. Griff can't have expected to turn anybody into stone. They were both looking directly at him when he started channeling it, and when he finished as well. Sops dies exactly where he died last time around, to the exact same guy as well. Relentless One, credit for the kill as Sino limps his way out of there.
No, Sino makes it out, the wisps come out, the minions were aggroed onto Relentless One, and so they don't track over to Sino. Relentless should even be able to make it out of here. Moswell is there, drops the Blizzard, throws out a nice bolt, and Mando doesn't have that chase that he might have hoped for. Level 10 up against the 12 of both Relentless and Moswell.
So now we're exactly, yet again, not kills, but golden experience, exactly where we were in Game 2. It took a little bit longer, maybe like a minute longer, but the KAOLIN Wardens have got a firm grasp on this game, and it's reflected in the builds. Execution are now finished up for Sino, so not only is he dealing more damage, but so is Griff when he's around, or even Relentless One. Now looking towards some utility with the Ancient Blade pickup. Moswell going down that standard tree, essentially doing the same build that he was doing back in the Splice days. Chronos Pendant Divine Ruin into the tiny trinket tree. Very curious. Couldn't tell you where he's going to go. Maybe a soul gem. I know he's a very big fan of that item. But as of now, it's all about Sops in the mid lane. Caught out. No dash, though. Holds onto it very well.
Holding on for as long as possible. Sino will go into the slice and dice. Dashboard does get that ult off just to make sure to res Sops back. Sops will make it out. Still didn't have the beads during that engagement. We'll have them back up for the next one at the very least. But the Wardens are not going to stop with just getting an ultimate out of this Khepri. They're going to see if they can find anything else. With a red buff down, no purple buff in sight, KAOLIN Wardens will instead look over towards the Gold Fury.
They should. Griff pulls it out, and Sino's going to help him out with the DPS. Shortly, Moswell and Gino will join them on the neutral objective. And that's what it takes to make the KAOLIN Wardens look towards a Gold Fury. They got to check every single buff and make sure that nobody's around that they could kill from the enemy team. And if that's the case, if all those criteria have been met, they will look towards the objectives, and in doing so, push their lead even further at the 12-minute mark. The scaling of the Weavers is not awful, especially considering they've got a Kali in the jungle. It's just whether or not they're going to get to a point where that matters. Considering a 3-level gap in the jungle as of right now, it's going to be a long time until that Kali hits her power stride.
Yeah, the closest as far as experience is concerned with these players right now is between those Hunters. Diesel only about a level to a level and a half down up against Griff. Griff now 4-1 on the Medusa after 4 or 5 rotations came over to that dual lane in the early game. Has been done nothing but make Griff more powerful as this has gone on. Pyromancer started up by the Weavers. That one should go to them with no one from the Wardens around to steal that one away.
Yeah, the Wardens were too busy camping the Weavers' back camps, just daring anybody to step forward, and it seems like, who's going to take the dare? It's Dashboard.
Dashboard up against 3. Trying to find a path out. Does manage to find one with the fire transformation and then the ice bolt after. Moswell will get the kill up against Dashboard at a 13th one to the board for the Wardens. And we might as well keep going. Find another one. Now Griff will take the last little bit of that back camp away. Rotate in. Find Shinfu in the jungle. Shinfu lose out on pretty much all their health bar. Griff able to juke away. The Suns are not going to be any good either. Diesel has to go in aggressive. Will find the kill up against Griff, but immediately taken down in response as Moswell picks up the kill, and Relentless One, why stop there? See if you can find another kill for yourself, buddy, as he chases out Mando Warrior all the way back to the Phoenix.
Horrific Emblem traded out for Mando Warrior's beads, a trade Relentless One very happy to take. The KAOLIN Wardens are grouped up on the Tier 2 tower, loosely grouped up on the Tier 2 tower. I thought maybe it'd be a siege, but who am I to think that? Ultimate connects from Bastet. Moswell forced to use his own beads. That's a great trade for the Weavers. But the Wardens, they're just going to set up their camp yet again, see if anyone is brave enough to walk into the jungle. As Sino, I thought, would start his Tier 2 Tier 2 tower siege. Instead, just pushes the wave in and heads back to base.
It's going to be an Executioner pickup by Griff as well here. So not only Sino grabbing this item, but will be the Hunter on the side of the KAOLIN Wardens. Meanwhile, Moswell still waiting to see where that tiny trinket ends up going. Sops on the other side has gone for the Divine Ruin, the Charon's coin right after, and now working towards a book. Soul Reaver, the more likely option here, based on how the state of the game is at this point. The KAOLIN Wardens have established a 6,000 gold lead so far, 14.5 minutes in the game. XP, pretty much every single lane is behind on the side of the Weavers, aside from Solo, which is
Let's go, Mando.
only about half level difference separating those two.
Yeah, Relentless One has been spending 0 time in that lane and instead has been ganking everywhere else on the map. Sino walks in completely alone up against Dashboard and Sops, and well, Dashboard's level 9 and Sops is only level 13, so Sino not concerned about that 2v1. Eventually is joined back up by Gino as Griff is accosted in the lane.
Once again, Griff does go down. Third death now for the Hunter, but maybe we add a fourth one to the mid laner. Good stun by Sops. We'll keep him alive for the time being. Dashboard, can the same be said for you, my friend? It's 3 versus 1, a pull back in, and a Scare's Blessing to hold him out for a little while longer, but the fire and the flames are too much out of Moswell. That'll be a kill, but he goes down to the Master of the Fire. The Agni takes him out, and Gino running for his life up against now 3, but Mando Warrior, the bully of the solo, is back, and Chinfu is gone.
Chinfu's gone, and Sops now the target, the ire of Relentless One. All of it onto the mid laner. Dash down, and the Horrific should secure that kill. A bit of a backstep from Sops does not secure his life. Bludgeon connects, and he falls down. Mando Warrior, though, the soul laner who is, or was rather, even with Relentless One, trying to hold his own up against world champion Sino. Nearly does so, but that juke, too crispy. Just too crispy for the jungler here.
Nice little backstep there on the side of Sino to get away from the pounce. And that'll put 19 kills up on the board for the KAOLIN Wardens. And the Weavers struggling to stay in these fights, but they've been closing up this gold disparity. Now it's only 4,000 separating these two teams. But the pressure, the confidence is all in favor of the KAOLIN Wardens.
Yeah, I would like to equate Sino to like Bugs Bunny, and all of the Weavers are just Elmer Fudd. You know what I'm saying? Like he is just clowning these guys right now. Sino, I don't think has legitimately put an actual thought into his process this game. He is on full mechanical autopilot, and it just looks good.
Chinfu walks up to Moswell and then walks away because Moswell's fire is doing a little bit too much damage. It will be the Soul Gem out of the Merlin this time around. Soul Reaver for Sops. Sops trying to stay in this game here in this mid lane, 2 levels down, just ticked over to level 15, and could be one of these saving graces. That last little team fight, some solid CC, kept him alive and managed to turn around 1 kill. But the Weavers stepping around this Primal Fury, they have the ward coverage to see what's going on, but they don't have the mental pressure to step up. The KAOLIN Wardens will gladly take this objective, unless Diesel has something to say about it, but he's not going to have anything this time around. That one goes to the way of the Wardens.
Yeah, Diesel knew for a fact that if he even showed his face, that objective would not have gone down. They would have all peeled off to kill him and then maybe gone back to the objective if they felt like it. So instead says, let's save my life and just give him the objective anyway. So instead resets himself back to lane as Sino walks around the jungle, 5 stacked with the rest of his team. Fire Giant seems like a good call.
Could be the call here. Wardens are backing away. And for the moment, a couple of the Weavers were going to go back to base, but now recognizing that fire is the threat on the side of the KAOLIN Wardens. Already down to half health. All 5 members of the Weavers are grouping around. Dashboard gets a pull onto Relentless One, who eats a lot of damage, but he up downs in place, finds 2, manages to get Diesel to walk away, but it's a double knock up by Gino. Diesel has to use the Aegis and the beads early on into the fight. Relentless One does not care, and now that Sino has showed up, Diesel has the Scare's Blessing, but Chinfu is the one who strikes first in the team fight, and a revive is good. Destruction, not enough to keep them up. Relentless One able to turn around and find now 3 with the help of the double kill from Sino up against only 1 from the Weavers.
Yeah, support for 3/5 of the Weavers trade in favor of the Wardens. Now can reset back to base and spend like 10 seconds walking back to the Fire Giant, while the rest of the Weavers spend 30 seconds in the Grayscale, except for Dashboard, who is still level 11, so will respawn very quickly. Maybe hit level 12 before the Fire Giant falls down and get a second relic available, as the Wardens are already closing in on the major neutral objective on the map. I just don't think Mando Warriors got it in them to defend this one. Maybe with the help of Psalms, but the Wardens, they'd rather go for the Pyromancer first.
They don't have Moswall with them, so a lot of their objective burn is gone for the time being. But with Moswall closing in that gap, Gino right behind, all 5 of the Wardens can now step up to the Fire Giant one more time and start that one up. Relentless will be the one to trigger that. And it'll only be Dashboard here to try and slow them down. And Fire Giant will go the way of the KAOLIN Wardens. A leap in by Mando and a leap right back out, as Relentless One is keeping up the bully pressure onto Sob's. Dashboard will just curve off to the right side to make sure the rest of his team has a way of getting out, as Relentless One has not given up this chase against the mid laner, only until Mando will slow him down.
Yeah, it turns out Relentless One, not just an IGN, but a title earned by the solo of the Wardens, as he has yet to let go of his W key over the last 20 minutes. It's going to be 15 seconds yet again for Dashboard on the respawn, but here's the thing. The analysis I said earlier, where he's level 11, so he respawns fast, it's slightly different now. He just ticks over to level 12 post-mortem, but still respawns pretty fast.
Gino misses that pull. Bomb stun is good by Sobs, but the right side Phoenix will go down to the KAOLIN Wardens, and they can march their way across the way over towards mid, but there's still a tier 2 tower in both these other lanes, so they can't go towards those birds just yet. Instead, they can open up the back door and try and find their way out, because Gino does end up missing that pull one more time.
So now the Wardens realize that Diesel's on the left side of the map, pushing out those waves. They've seen him on the map. They now realize that Chinfu is similarly pushing in mid. So it is a 5 versus 3 in this tier 2 tower.
And so far for that 5 versus 3 is Dashboard, who's losing out on their life. Scare's Blessing saves it for only a moment longer. And the fire from Moswell's enough to get one. Sino will find another one. Sops, the only one alive to defend up against in the Titan. But he's not going to be enough. He needs some extra backup, and that backup has not shown up yet. It will not get there in time. One down, maybe making a second. Shinfu gets the destruction. The Titan hasn't gone down until just now. The KAOLIN Wardens, once again in 21 minutes here in Game 3, will close out this set for the 2-1 win.
So Game 1 was 40 minutes, Game 2 was 20-some-odd minutes, and Game 3 was also 20-some-odd minutes. So the Wardens, in the same amount of game time, won the set as what we saw from the Weavers, 40 minutes to win Game 1.
2-1 here out of the KAOLIN Wardens to start their season off right, get themselves their first win here in week number 1. And this is the level that we expected to see out of this team from the very beginning. That game number 1 was a little bit awkward, maybe playing around a little bit. They cleaned it up here in games 2 and 3. We'll take it to a break and we'll come back to close out the set.
Do you miss me at all? Do you think about the things we used to do? No, you couldn't stand tall. So why didn't you call? So many years has gone by, but I think about you all the time. Looks like you're changing and all. But why didn't you call? Something in the air, always something in the air. Inexplicable, I can feel it in the air. Can you feel me?
And welcome back to the North American Smite Challenger Circuits. The KAOLIN Wardens with a victory in Game 3 to bring themselves the dub in this set with a 2-1 win over the Weavers in a very commanding, dominant display of power here in Games 2 and 3. In the 40 minutes it took them to lose Game number 1, it took them almost equal amount of time to win Game 2 and 3.
Yeah, never in a 3-game set have I been so sure that one team was just that much more dominant, right? Generally, a 3-game set, you're like, oh, okay, well, some back and forth, some intrigue. Not the case in this one. The Wardens just did it to them, and they made it look easy.
And the Wardens, once they actually drafted a real composition, to say the very least here, once they actually picked up some standard gods, got Sino on some of these assassins, they got the ball rolling in Games 2 and 3. And just as convincingly here from game number 2 into Game 3, Griff, this play right here is pretty much the telltale of how the rest of the game goes. Griff finds 3 people looking at him with Petrify.
Yeah, and he did it multiple times, by the way. That's not like a one-off, okay, he turned 2 or 3 people into stone. No, he did that multiple times throughout this game. The Weavers just were not quite ready for that Medusa ultimate. Similarly, we're not ready for Relentless One to live up to his name, because that guy was simply holding W key in every single one of this team fight. But you know what? I can't just give Relentless One credit for that. I think that might just be the credo, the nimpo, the ninja way of the Wardens. It's W key.
Gonna be the W for these guys, not just in game, but also in the set. And from this point on, I mean, we see Relentless One diving mid at like level 8, level 9. He's already at Sops's throat, and then it goes all the way until 15, 20 minutes in. He's still at Sop's throat, or pretty much anybody who steps him up to him at that point. The Wardens getting a nice win to start out in week number 1 of the SCC. Relentless One had 8 kills that game. I didn't realize he went 8-0 that game.
Well, yeah, you probably were just so enthralled by Sino because he was 9-1 and had more damage because junglers are the best.
Is that what it is? It's the junglers were the best.
Well,
there.
you said it, not me.
Okay. Well, we'll see how that goes here. As long as Sino can pick up some of these assassins and play to that expectation, could be seeing some fan favoritism towards this team as the SCC goes on. That was our 3rd of the SCC sets of the week, so we don't have any more of the SCC, at least so to speak of here. We've already watched all of our EU sets that happened over on Thursday and yesterday. Now with the NA closing out here with a win by the Wardens. It's 2-1s across the board though, as far as the NA SCC. They don't want to make it clean 2-0s. They want to have a little bit of a bloody matchup here. But it will be KAOLIN, Wardens, the Shibalba Storm, and the Eldritch Hounds, all with their wins here in week 1.
I would be willing to say the Wardens 2-0'd. I mean, I know they didn't, but I'd be willing to say it.
Might as well. I mean, that first game, 40 minutes, back and forth, kind of there, and then the Wardens just decided, okay, we're done playing around. We're just going to go ahead and end this set and win it, and they looked pretty damn good doing it.
They did. And you know what? For all the fans at home, because I feel like you guys are so impressionable in my casual and ranked games, and you love what the SEC are doing. No triple mage compositions. Make that promise to me, chat. Just don't do it.
Maybe just at least, if you're doing double mage, don't run one of them like a Discordia support, at least to say.
Double mage is fine.
Double mage, fine. But that's all that we got for the SCC. We've got the SPL coming up next. We got our match of the week with the Camelot Kings of the Olympus Bolts. Will be the first one to round this one out. So make sure that you stick around. We'll be back right at 1 o'clock to start all that off.